Alright, so I wanted to bring you my next project. This will go with the bows that I created last week. So I have this hat box that I'm going to paint to match a nursery theme. So I'm not sure how this one's going to work out. We'll have a little bit of painting, a little bit of Cricut crafting, and hopefully a whole lot of luck. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so I got all my supplies out. I gave the box a light sanding. I pulled the sticker off. I had a little bit of the paper come off, but that's okay because it's all getting painted. And then inside, when I did the sanding, some of the paper edges came loose, so I just took a little bit of my fine glue and just glued it back down. And there is one seam inside. I went ahead and reinforced it with some more glue. This isn't going to be a toy or anything, but I still want it to last for a good while. So I just did a light sanding with a sanding block, and it's just to rough up the edges, just to help the paint, you know, adhere a little bit better. And so basically it's just going over it, smoothing out the edges, and then getting this flat surface here, and then in here, and the bottom and side. I did the same thing with the lid. And now that I've done it again, I always want to wipe it off with some cloth. That'll help take off the little dust and everything. So there's that. And then what I do is, something I like to do is go to, you know, the big box stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, and buy their oops paint. So, you know, I can get this for 50 cents. I don't have a choice of colors, but I usually just, I gravitate towards blues and then bright colors because I paint cards. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually mix my own colors, and they haven't been used, so I got all this little, but that's why I put a surface down, plastic surface on top of my worktop here. And I'm going to basically just work on mixing up a color that I want to use for the base. You can use gloves if you want. I don't. I'll just wash my hands. It's all water-based paint, so it doesn't really matter. You'll just want to give it a good stir. Some of these are only partial, some are brand new. I do a lot of acrylic pouring, so I use a lot of paint when I do that. So that's one reason I buy it like this. I don't think I'm going to mix, so that's all good. Get this off. I paint one side, let it dry several hours, maybe even overnight, and then paint the other side. I'm not going to do a real thick coat on it because I do, number one, want it to dry, but number two, the thicker you go, the more likely you'll have it to peel. So I want it to really stick to each other. I'll do is I'll do a wax technique around the rim, so that since it's be two painted surfaces against each other, so that it doesn't stick when you're trying to take it on and off. Alright, there's step one. We'll let it dry and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, we're going to get our next coat on. Alright, so now we're to our next step for our bow box. And if you remember, it was floral. And I put this dark gray on it. Now I'm going to put black on it. And then we'll start creating that design that we want. And I'll probably go 2 coats just because it is a paper box and I want it to not buckle and all that kind of stuff once you start putting liquid onto a paper product, cardboard or anything else. Okay, so our box is dry. So now we do have to do the edge, but I'm going to do that very last. But now comes the fun part. So now let's start creating our sky background. Just barely touching it with a brush. And what I did is I Googled galaxy to get some idea of where I wanted to go with this idea, because this top will actually have a Cricut logo put on it. It's going to say "Love you to the moon and back." Not a logo, a decal, excuse me. Alright, that infernal waiting for paint to dry again. Alright, once it's dry, I'll come back to you and we'll do the next step. It's all about the layers, so you don't have buckling. Alright, our hat box is all dry and it's ready for the splattering. Alright, so we did this the other time with our painting with our daughter. or pumpkin picture. This is the same kind of idea. What I found that I like to do was to gently tap it on another surface to get those little splatter marks. So we'll create us a little puddle of paint, and it shouldn't take that much. Less is more again. And I'm using a wide bristle brush, and the same I haven't cleaned the scissors because I know I was going to do this project. I think we're going to choose to stop right there. All right, we'll let it dry, then we'll get stuff cleaned up, and we'll be able to move on to our next step. All right, our box is dry, and you can see that I went back and added galaxy kind of stuff to it. Went all the way around. Did the inside and the outside. And the finishing piece will be this cutout that I did on my Cricut. So I cut it out, and I'm going to change the spacing just a smidge. So it came as a full sheet, and then I weeded out the bits that I don't need. So the background and then all the little bits between the letters. And I wish I would have made it a little smaller. Thought I measured it, and it's one of those measure twice, cut once. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the spacing on this decal. So there's that. It's right up to the edge. Let's do that. I'm going to use my mini. That's what the beep was. It's up to temp. I'm just going to change that angle on that moon and see that it gets it all on there. I'm using the mini because with painted surfaces, you want to be a little more careful. So when I want to put the press on there, because I don't necessarily need all that, I'm just going to try to get the words on there. How we're going to fix our little areas. I'm not so much worried about catching that Cosmo effect because I have quite a bit of it all over the top. I'm just going to take a couple coats because it took it all the way to the base. And I'll feather it in on the edges. We'll let that dry good and then we'll put a clear coat on top. So there is our bow box. All right, we're ready for the next step. You can see that I've got the decal on. And I've got it fixed from where the paint pulled up from that the backing on the decal itself. Everything's good and dry. And I'm ready to put, oh, and I did get the ribbon. Let's open that up so you can see it. I think everybody wanted black glitter ribbon for this time of year, but I did finally find some. And I think it's going to work out just right. So it's going to feed through these little holes, and I believe it's going to be the perfect width and the exact look that I was looking for. Of course, I'll make a bow at the front, but there it is. It'll be a nice little accent. So that'll go on after we get our varnish put on it. All right, we'll let this dry and then we'll put another coat on it and put the ribbon on it, and this will be a very pretty box to put her bows in, and it will be a very nice Christmas present. All right, I'll be back to you as soon as this dries. All right, so we have our box coated and it's dry, and now we're ready to do the finishing touches on our bow box. Here are the bows, just as a reminder, that I made for my granddaughter. Just little tiny headbands for a little infant. So first thing I want to start off by doing is gotta trim this. It came with a raggedy edge for some reason, and I want to get an idea of how much I want in here, what it'll take. Leave a little bit to overlap, and so now we'll weave. I left enough in here that I could overlap it. Glue gun going. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bow. Let's see if we're going to do a bow. I don't know, maybe it doesn't need a bow, because we'll probably set it like that. So you know what? We'll forgo the bow. Ooh. My son-in-law just silently said thank you. So we'll let this heat up. And while we're waiting on that to heat up, we'll talk about this project and the things we learned. It was a very cool project. Took an old hat box and revamped it into something new for my granddaughter's nursery, to hold the bows, the headband bows. And so we used a chipboard box. We used acrylic paints, so blacks and blues and whites, and I used heat transfer vinyl and the white glitter. So that came out quite pretty. I did like a Cosmo effect. It was quite easy. The one thing I did learn is I should have cut closer to this, because in actuality I could have taken it all the way off and just use like a contact paper to transfer it, because the sticky to the background, what the carrier sheet for the vinyl, was super strong, so it actually pulled off paint in some spots, but like you can't even really tell it. I was able to fix it, but to save that grief next time, I probably would use because you can place this anywhere you want it. The advantage of the carrier sheet is for the spacing, but I could have used the same thing. I could have done it by hand and been just as easy. So next time I work on a painted surface, I'm going to try to remember that. We used the glitter ribbon just to finish this, and we're going to glue this in here in just a minute. There's the back of our box. I am right now looking online, and I'll end up posting an update if I find it. But I'm looking for an insert. I decided not to go with the cut because I didn't want my granddaughter to possibly touch it and it'd be rough and hurt her little fingers or anything. So I'm looking for something that I can use instead of just laying the bows in here, because they'll be quite pretty just laying in here. But if my daughter does decide she wants to, you know, stand it on its side on a shelf, then all the bows will get jumbled around. And this glitter, while it's gorgeous, tends to want to stick to the headband material. So we'll possibly just lay it in there. I'm not sure. I may get my daughter's input on that to see what she would like. Anyways, that's what this box is for, is to store her bows. Because, you know, Grandma, I'm going to make some more bows for this little girl. And she has to have more glitter, because girls can't ever have enough glitter. But anyways, so I am looking for some kind of insert. I can't be the first person in the world to have ever created this. So I'm sure there's one out there and I just haven't quite found it yet. I may end up making something. We'll see. And if I do, I'll bring that to you. But I really needed this to be curing, because I want it to, I'm going to end up putting wax and then powder around the edges. But I have to let it cure for several days. That way it won't stick when you put it together. So let's see. I think we got some glue going here. Make sure I've got it all pulled pretty tight. I'm not going to glue it to the box. I'm just going to glue it to itself. That way if she ever wants to change out this ribbon, it'll be easier for her to do that. So this has been a fun project. I took just an idea I had in my head and came up with something that I think turned out quite lovely. So it'll just set like that. I'll get them all in the right tops or bottoms. It fits perfectly inside those little slots. And there you have it. Baby's bows have a hat box now. Oh, we'll call it a bow box. Baby's bows have a bow box. All right, well, this was a fun project. I enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, this would be a great time to subscribe. It kind of lets YouTube know that you like seeing this kind of DIY, and that it inspires you to create something on your own. So thank you for watching, and until next time, happy crafting!